All right, we are going live in multiple places. I'm live, I'm live, I'm live. Okay, great. We are talking about teens and social media today. So much to talk about, and I'm pulling up my notes to make sure that I can be in the right place. Okay, going live. Hello, hello. We're going to talk about teens and social media today. I did a poll at the beginning of the week, and I said, let's talk about some teen topics. And I said, what do you want to talk about? And I put up a couple of ideas. I said mental health, I said dating, I said phones, and then I asked a series of questions. So I heard a lot of moms check the boxes to say, I want to talk about mental health. I'm putting my bracelet on while I do this. They say, I want to talk about mental health. And then as I go down some of the questions, I say, what about mental health do you want to talk about? The majority of the people want to talk about mental health with our teenagers as it pertains to phones and social media. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I am not a mental health expert. I am a coach for moms of teenagers, helping you to become trusted so that your teenager will want to talk to you, listen to what you have to say. And so much about understanding your teenager's mental health means they have to be able to talk to you about it. And I also heard, as moms were commenting, they were saying, my teenager doesn't want to open up. They're not talking to me. I can tell there's something going on, but I can't quite tell what's going on inside of them because they're not talking to me. So tell me, if you're here live, if that is your experience, are you concerned about your teen's mental health? Are they talking with you and sharing with you? Because that's a big part of the challenge. If your teenager's not willing to open up, and listen, most teenagers are very uncomfortable with their emotions, with their feelings. So talking about emotions, being emotionally regulated yourself is what helps your teenager be more willing to want to open up about your own feelings. I've talked about it in the past. Here's the challenge. As moms, we are conditioned that when our kids are babies and they cry, what do? What do you do when your baby cries? You fix it. You feed them, you change their diaper, you rock them, you soothe them. That has been what moms have been conditioned from the start. And that is not what we are necessarily meant to do when they are older. However, because we've been conditioned that when they cry, when they're sad, we fix it, that's what we think and expect when they're teenagers as well. And so when they're sad about something like they've got a breakup or a friend doesn't want to hang out with them or they're struggling in school or they didn't make the team, mom's sad, we're uncomfortable with their discomfort, just like when they were babies, and we want to fix it. We want to make it all better. And oftentimes we think we make it better by saying, oh, it's okay, something else will come along. There's other fish in the sea. Those friends weren't good for you anyway. Let's see, what does this say? Self-regulation is one of the most underrated. Yes, thank you, Ben, for sharing that. Self-regulation is one of the most underrated parenting skills, is what my friend Ben Pugh just said. It is true, because if we can't regulate ourselves, we can't teach them how to regulate themselves. So a lot of teen mental health has to do with this emotional regulation, whether you like it or not. So if you are a mom who is trying to fix their discomfort, and I get it, like I said, that's how we've been conditioned from the start, is to fix their discomfort. It unintentionally teaches them the wrong message. It teaches them that they don't feel capable of fixing themselves, and therefore their mental health starts to go down. They don't know how to emotionally regulate, and it's this big spiral of a tangled mess. So as moms, as my friend Ben just said, one of the best things we can do is learn to self-regulate. This is something that I help moms with. I know a lot of other people. I know Ben helps people do this as well. If you find yourself in this place of, I know that I'm not regulated and I'm not sure what to do, I'm here to help. And there's other people who are here to help, because I was that someone too. None of us were really taught how to self-regulate. Some of us were lucky enough to have parents that were pretty self-regulated. Some of us not so much. And so We're learning to figure it out. So let's get back to teens and mental health. So as I said, many moms answered my poll that I did on my stories. And I'm going to do different topics now throughout the week. And I'm going to come back to my Friday Lives. I used to do Friday Lives a lot before my Trusted Academy call every Friday. And I haven't done it for a while. So here's what I want to talk about: teens and social media, because I recognize that it's a hot topic. I recognize a lot of parents are worried, they're scared about it. And years ago, I created a guide. It's probably been 10 years. I'm not sure. So my oldest is 25. When smartphones came out, we didn't really know any better, okay? We didn't know about social media back in the day when he was a teenager, and my boys had smartphones. And so I learned my smartphone as they learned their smartphone. And I will say, we figured it out. We didn't have any major problems, and they were pretty good about the rules. We had just different phone rules, and this is a story for another day. And we figured it out. I think a lot of parents are terrified of social media, and there's a lot coming out in the news and regulations and all of these things. And what's most important is that you are having conversations regularly, whether your kids are on social media or you're preparing them for the day that they're on social media. Have these conversations regularly so that they better understand. And so I made a guide years ago, and I had been meaning to update it. And you know what? I spent 5 to 7 hours yesterday. I was telling my daughter at midnight, as I was doing the finishing touches, I said, I updated my social media guide. I'm so excited. And if you're watching the replay of this, you can comment the word guide and I'll send it to your inbox. However, on lives, I can't do that. So I also posted it in my story. So I want you to have this guide because it will guide you through 13 conversations to have with your teenager about social media, whether you have started social media or not. So I'm going to hit a couple of these points today in this live. And my lives, I like to do 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm not going to be here for very long. But there's 13 conversation pieces. And what's most important is to read the intro. Do we ever skip intros on books? Sometimes I think I can skip the intro and then I'm like, wait, intro really sets me up for success. So I've got a little first page intro. I've got a picture of me and my kids in here. Because like I said, we started social media before we knew that much about it, and we navigated it together. And I feel grateful for my experience with my kids, for the fact that we were already having open conversations before. And because we were already in a trusted, fairly well emotionally regulated state, they cared about what I had to say. They cared about following the rules. They cared about the parameters that were placed on them. And I get some of you are in this place where you're like, I'm trying to have parameters. I'm trying to have expectations and rules around phones. And my kids keep lying or stealing or hiding iPads or getting burner phones. Like there's all, listen, I've heard all the things. And I'm here to say, my daughter just sent me a text. I got distracted. Let's focus on our emotional regulation, because what I say in the intro is, if your teenager's not talking to you right now, if they're giving you one-word answers, if they're isolating in their room, if they're rolling their eyes at you, if they're annoyed with anything that you have to say, and I recognize that's painful, but I've been in that place before. One of my kids, we had some challenges because of how I tried to soothe her like when she was a baby, because that's what I was conditioned to do. If you missed the beginning of this, go back and watch it. That's what moms are conditioned to do, is to fix the discomfort of our kids. And when we do it too much, when we become too much of the fix-it mom, it takes away their own autonomy. It makes them feel less capable. It makes them feel like they can't. And this is where mental health starts to take a dip. What I want you to know is there are things that you can do differently to support your teenager's mental health. The very basic one that I love to talk about often is being the fix-it mom, wanting to make everything all better. Something that we've been conditioned to do since they were babies is something that we have to break ourselves of doing when they're teenagers. Like it or not, this is how it works. So tell me, what is your biggest challenge with your teen and social media? Because I want to address, especially those of you that are here live, what your biggest challenge is. And while you do that, I'm going to pull up the social media guide. So after this goes live, you can comment the word guide and I'll send it to you. Right now, I'm trying to think of the link because I just created it last night. If you were to type it in, but go to my Instagram story and type in, there's a keyword. If you go to my story, I think it's guide. The keyword is guide. The keyword will be guide after this is live. But On the social media guide, there's 13 conversations to have with your teenager. And I'm going to just hit a few of them. I'll start with number 1 because it just seems like a good idea. But if you're here live, tell me what your biggest challenge is with your teenager and social media, because I want to be able to support and hit those of you that are live. And okay, so number 1, and also tell me if you're here live, are you pre-social media with your kids or are you in the thick of it? Because that will also help me know how to gear it. Because number 1 is to start with training wheels, okay? Think of social media like learning to drive. You wouldn't head onto the freeway alone. If you're getting your first account, consider starting on a parent's phone. Okay, so this is what I recommend. This is one of my biggest tips that I recommend. If your pre-social media is to start on your phone. Yes, it's annoying to have to share your phone with your child, no matter what age. And I will say social media, there's been a lot of things that have come. There's, what's the youngest age is meant to be 13. So if they're pre-13, they're not meant to have their own account unless it's parent-led for a business or, whatever reason it may be. But if you've decided, I don't want to do social media at 13, I want to do 14, 15, 16, whatever it is. Some people say they're not going to have social media till they're 18 and then move out of the house. I strongly discourage that, because if I have seen way too many college kids, I've got 3 kids in college or post-college. I've seen way too many college kids struggle because they had so many parameters set on them when they were home. They were never loosened of those parameters until they were out on their own, and they struggle with their mental health when they start social media, when they get out of the house. So I strongly discourage that. Bare minimum, if they are interested in social media, the beginning of their senior year, which my youngest daughter is the beginning of her senior year, but she's had social media for a while, so it's a non-issue. But I do think it is important to help them with training wheels before they move out of the house, whether it's the beginning of their senior year, Christmas of their senior year, month, I don't know, before they graduate. I respect other parents to make decisions, but I don't want you to make decisions out of fear. There's a lot of fear based out there with phones and social media. And to that, I say, yes, there are some concerning things. There are things that we want to protect them. We want to help protect their mental health, but just shielding them from something isn't necessarily helping them in the long term. When you can navigate it with them, this is what helps. And so if you're pre-social media, start on your phone. Start with something like, I've said a year or so ago that Be Real was a great first social media account to have. My kids have since been off of it and I've been off of it, so I haven't been on it as much. I know they've updated and added different things. And so think about, whatever social media your kid's on, you need to be on. You need to understand how it works. You need to see how they're talking and navigating things. I will say, my daughter's had Instagram for a few years, and I'm still logged in on my phone. So I see the notifications that she gets as I come in. And I will say, because she's 17 now, and it's something that I'm not concerned about, but I do appreciate having access to it. So starting on your phone is the great way to start. If they've already had social media and you're trying to backtrack, it is much harder to backtrack and start with some different parameters than it is if you start from the beginning. And what do I say? If your teen's already on social media, it's okay to hit reset. Consider moving the app to a shared device for a season while you build healthier habits. So if you have found challenges with social media, then you could say, you know what, let's take it off your phone for a little bit. We're going to put it on my phone. When you want to check it, let's navigate it together. Or we're going to put it on a family iPad or whatever it may be. What are the challenges that arise with social media? I will say, maybe kids having conversations with it, which they can do in text anyway, which may be inappropriate. Maybe it's language. Maybe it's talking bad about somebody else, right? These are the conversations. These are some of the 13 points that I talk about. Let's talk about how to comment. Let's talk about how it feels when somebody posts something that we weren't invited to. It's more than just there's predators out there pretending to be somebody else, right? We want to, as it pertains to their mental health. So predators is one thing we want to be mindful of. We're not going to share our address and our location or somebody we don't know. All those conversations, I think, is what I hear are the biggest fears that parents have. And to me, the mental health aspect of it, of feeling less than or feeling sad that people aren't interacting with or commenting or, liking their post or whatever. There's different things that you can have conversations about to help them to see the bigger picture. And that's a lot of what these points are. So I already mentioned number one, tell me your challenge with social media, and I'll answer your question if you're just arriving here on the live. And tell me if you have a teenager that's on social media, what your biggest challenge is, or if you're not quite on social media, but you're worried about doing it. I get it. It is concerning. And I'm a big fan of navigating them through it instead of just, I'm not a fan of the phrase, but stick your head in the sand, but it does apply in this case of just because you're concerned about something doesn't mean to ignore it. So let's see. So I just read number one of the social media guide that I have. After I publish this live, you can comment the word guide and I'll send it to you. I also have it currently linked in my story that you can comment live. And it is meant to be conversational. Let's have conversations. Let's not have hard hit rules. I know that contracts were a thing a long time ago. And I know we did contracts, I think, with our two older kids. And you can do a contract if you want. I don't have a contract in here. I much prefer conversations than feeling like I'm this overlord with a contract. And if you slip up, then you're out, right? And there is something to say for 3 strikes, you're out. And, you know, if you're finding that your teen is struggling with navigating social media in a way that you're having conversations around, then maybe I do support, let's take a break from social media. My kids have actually taken their own breaks from social media. They've deleted things from their phones. They have found, because we've had regular conversations and they know and understand how to regulate their own emotions, they have decided for themselves at times to say, I want to take social media off my phone, or I want to delete it. So, okay, so I hit point number one. Let's see. I'm going to tell you about point number 5. Okay, like I said, I'm skipping around here. Let's see. We recently talked about loneliness. Okay, I want to make sure I read these comments. We recently talked about loneliness on my podcast, and it made me think as a mother, if social media is a world our kids can't avoid, how do we teach them to recognize what connection is actually? Great question. I love this. And I think it's true. I think as it pertains to loneliness, I want to make sure I get the question right. It made me think, if social media is a world our kids can't avoid, how do we teach them? So, I mean, we teach them just like we teach so many other things. We want to teach them. And actually, the subtitle of this, which you cannot read here, is helping your teen build their own internal compass. This is the goal of parenting in general. Teach them to have their own inner compass. I don't want to tell them, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You have to get off if you see this, or you have to blah, 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 right? This is you telling them what to do. We want to teach them to have their own internal compass so that when they see something, like I said, my kids have had their feelings hurt. And I can't remember one of the points on here is, if you have a friend that keeps sharing things, maybe you have a friend that's sharing something every day, they're hanging out with other friends, it's hurting your feelings, put them on mute, unfollow them. I get that some people think that they can't do that. And I will say an unfollow is more obvious. My kids are aware of who's following and who's not, which to me is crazy. Of other friends, like, oh, I saw so-and-so unfollowed so-and-so. Interesting. I didn't even know that. You're not getting a notification for that. But you can put people on mute. If you recognize, I've done that myself. There are people here on social media that I am friendly with, and I've decided for my own personal mental health, I'm going to mute them because my feelings get hurt. And so tell your kids about a time when your feelings have been hurt. Normalize the fact that, yeah, when we see other people doing things and we're not invited to it, of course your feelings are going to get hurt. Normalize it. Don't take it away. Taking it away is like, oh, you're too good for them anyway. Or, oh, there's better fish out in the world. That's invalidating potentially their feelings. You want to get to the place where they're like, and if you follow their friends, this is another tip. I don't even know if I have this tip in here. If you follow their friends on social media, you say things and you know how to start the conversations. Like, oh, hey, I saw so-and-so went out with so-and-so. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that? And they might say, I don't know. But the more that you start to ask questions like that, the more they're thinking about their own thoughts and tapping into their own feelings. And hopefully when they're trusted, when they feel safe to open up about their emotions, because they don't think that you're going to fix or invalidate, they start to talk about it more. And that's when you have the opportunity to normalize, yeah, my feelings get hurt too. And when I see friends are going out and I'm not invited, That's an example of that. And also being able to say, hey, sometimes we just need to turn it off. Sometimes we need to take a break from it. Hopefully that helps. I saw somebody else posted something, so I need to get up close. Creating loneliness and insecurity. How do we guide? Okay, instead of restrict without teaching them to simply hide it from us. Yes. So was the Taylor Swift video hard for you to watch because it's overplayed? Um, Listen, I love Taylor Swift, but I will say there are some things even of hers that feel overplayed for me. So, great question. But love me some Taylor. How do we guide instead of restrict? So, great question. We guide by having conversations, by having conversations at the dinner. I'm such a fan of at the dinner table. I do an activity called the rosebud and thorn. Highs and lows, peaks and valleys. Normalize that every day we all have something that is great and we all have something that's not so great. And sometimes these conversations can come out like, yeah, I saw, my friends doing something that I wasn't invited to. And like, yeah, that sucks. I've had that happen before too. Thank you for sharing with me. The end. It doesn't have to be fixing their loneliness. And sometimes we can say, if we're finding like they actually don't have great friends that they're hanging out with, we can encourage them to look outward for other people who are some people that you've been wanting to get to know, right? This snowballs the conversation. And confidence building. There are ways that we can build confidence. I have confidence conversation cards that help have the conversation about how to do things that build their confidence. Service, helping young kids, like babysitting, going to an elderly home. These are things that we can do as parents to help them look outside of themselves, because feeling lonely is a natural feeling and emotion, and loneliness over a long period of time where it spirals into potential depression, which there's a clinical, 14 days when they're, in the slumps, that before it's any kind of clinical. And this is all a part of, hey, let's go look at what we can do outside of ourselves. And yes, spending time with you. When you are trusted, your teenager wants to spend time with you, even if they're feeling lonely and don't have friends. When you are trusted, your teenager wants to talk to you. And yes, it is hard to talk about emotions. And so you going first, sharing about some of your emotions and normalizing the hard things that happen in your day is a way that helps them to see, okay, it's actually normal that life is 50% fun, happy, great, and 50% rough and difficult and challenging and sometimes lonely. Normalizing that these things happen. I think they see movies or they see highlight reels on social media and they think everybody's happy all the time. And it's because in talking about it being a highlight reel, most of us put the positive online and we're not necessarily putting the negative. I've even done that years ago when I had a blog. I would write, I was normalizing my own sad day, and people were coming in the comments trying to like make it better. And like, it's uncomfortable too. Some people were also uncomfortable with me sharing about loneliness or why are you sharing this on the internet, right? And here I am just trying to normalize it. So all in all, I'm going to wrap this up because this was 24 minutes instead of 20 minutes, but great discussion. If you want to have 13 conversations with your teenager about social media, when I end this live, comment the word live, or you can comment the word guide, or it's on my story right now. When we end this, you can comment the word guide and get this guide. I like to print things because I like to discuss it, but you can also do it from your phone. It's just smaller, or an iPad, and discuss these 13 points to have conversations. I don't necessarily recommend doing it all at once, but if you print it and have it out on the table and say, hey, we're going to talk about one a day for the next 13 days. Make sure I didn't get any other comments. Because yes, we are concerned. We don't want to ignore the fact that social media has its challenges, and we want to help our kids navigate through these challenges. So if you're with me, grab the guide. Would love to be able to support you. Ultimately, if you feel that your team doesn't want to talk to you about things like this, let's talk about building trust. This is my specialty. This is my expertise. I teach a workshop. It's a 1-hour workshop all about rebuilding the foundation of trust, because sometimes we're just moms who want to fix everything, and it has broken trust unintentionally. If you've got a pattern of fixing, of trying to make it better, of finding the silver lining, toxic positivity sometimes, this is what moms do. That's how we were conditioned to do since they were babies. And it doesn't have to be this way. We have to relearn, rewire our approach to things with our teenagers so that they feel capable and confident. And even on bad days, it doesn't spiral into loneliness. Even when they see things online, it doesn't affect their mental health because they feel confident, confident, and capable that this is a part of life. So, like I said, in the intro, I talk about a little bit more about if you don't feel like they're talking to you, if you feel like they might not feel emotionally safe for whatever reason, then it's time to dig into that, because they're less likely to care about what you have to say about social media if you're not already in a trusted space. Gotcha? Okay, I'm gonna go. I teach the Trusted Academy in a few minutes. Every Friday we talk about our blind spots. And the way into the Trusted Academy is through the workshop that I teach as well. Or if you're like, hello, I need more, send me a message. We can talk about what that looks like. I'm here to coach you through how to not just build skills with your child as a teenager, but skills that will last throughout their adulthood. So many moms are telling me they're concerned about estrangement. If you're in a not so great place with your teenager right now and you have an inkling of worry or fear about future estrangement, come talk to me, because this is all about what I do is teach you how to control your own emotions, recognize your parenting blind spots, because we all have them, there's no shame in it, and rewire your patterns so that you can have that relationship of your dreams. I know that sounds a little mythical and magical, but it's true. I've seen lots of moms go from a place of pain to feeling like, I can't believe this actually happened. And that's what I'm here to teach you. All right, gonna end this. Type the word guide in the comments after I end this, because I'm here to help you. Let's see, I'm gonna end.